following program are those of the program's participants and do not necessarily reflect those of station staff, management, and advertisers.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. I am energized. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to be back here in studio. I've been in like 5 states in like the last 3 days, so it's good to be back with all of you. And looking forward to a fun show today and a fun week, too. We have some great guests lined up for you this week. And a lot to get to. Please check out the website, pushinglimits.live, the YouTube page, which is at PTL Radio Show. And, of course, the FM AM dial KSHP. We're everywhere. We're on TikTok. We're on Twitch. We're on X. And we appreciate you guys being a part of the show. So I'm going to get to my trip to West Virginia doing the Tim Pool Show. And it's good to be back. But I, first of all, want to thank Leonard Cardinal, who did a wonderful job filling in for me. I really appreciate Leonard. He's a great guy, and he did a great job, and I heard nothing but good things. We are going to get into the fact that apparently Donald Trump admitted himself on Air Force One today that he had an MRI, which is very strange considering the fact that they only give you an MRI when there's a suspected problem or issue in order to rule out some sort of condition. But the White House isn't talking about it. They're not giving reasons why. Donald Trump isn't giving reasons why. So for all you MAGA idiots out there that have been saying, oh, they hid Joe Biden's dementia for years. What's going on right now in the White House? We'll talk a little bit about that. And there are a few people that are saying the volume's a little low, so hopefully we'll work on that. But I was invited to do the Tim Pool Show last week, as many of you probably already know. I had a great time with the Un-F America Tour. Let me start out by talking a little bit about that. Then we're going to get to the Tim Pool stuff. So on Wednesday, I did an Un-F America Tour event with Robbie Roadsteamer and Destiny and many other left-leaning creators, and I had a great time, and it was a lot of fun. Later that night, when Robbie Roadsteamer was dressed in his giraffe outfit, we went to see Alanis Morissette at Caesar's Palace, and it was quite a good time. Robbie is quite the character on and off camera. I will leave it at that, but Robbie's a great guy, and we had a really good time, and the Un-F America Tour event was a lot of fun, and you'll be hearing more about the tour and places that I'll be at next. It's great to meet listeners, and it was a great turnout, and we had a great time. So on Thursday, I flew out to Washington, D.C. I flew out to D.C. and Tim Pool's studio, don't worry, Tim, I'm not going to give out the address on the air, but Tim Pool's studio is about an hour, hour and a half from Reagan International Airport. And I got to be honest with you, it was a little spooky flying into Reagan. All I could think about was that horrific plane crash, you know, between the helicopter and the plane where so many innocent people lost their lives, and I'm just looking at that area, and it was kind of surreal. But flew into D.C. late Thursday. They put me up there in a nice hotel. I enjoyed it. And then Friday, I was prepared to go. I really didn't have much of an understanding of what we were going to be talking about, but I can tell you that I knew that I was going to disagree with Tim on a number of different issues. So I will say this. The driver picked me up from the airport. They were very kind, they were very nice, and I really didn't know what to expect. So as I'm going into his quote-unquote compound, because that's really the way I felt it was, it's like he lives in the middle of nowhere, and I see a home, a beautiful home on one side, and then I see a separate building on the other side. Obviously, clearly, he owns both buildings, and I was told the building next to his home is the podcast studio. Now, something I did not know about Tim Pool is that he's like a huge skateboarder, right? So I go into the building where the studio is, and it was a beautiful studio. And I see this like $100,000 skateboarding facility. I don't even know what you would call that. But he's a huge skateboarder, and I didn't know that. So I'm walking through this facility, and I go into his studio. I meet his producers, and he's got a lot of people that work for him. They were all very cordial. They were all very nice. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I'm also not going to pull a Bill Maher and say, well, everybody was so nice to me. I guess I agree with Tim on a lot of stuff. No, I'm not going to do that. But I will say this. I went in there. They had some drinks for me, some snacks. They were very cordial. The producers were very nice. and they treated me with respect, which I appreciated very much. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that they were horrible to me, they treated me terrible. Yeah, we got into some heated debate, and we're going to get to that. But all I'm simply saying is that this was a huge facility. It was a beautiful podcast studio, a beautiful green room. The producers were very nice to me. And I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that they weren't. They treated me with respect. They were very kind. I met Tim before the show. We talked for a few minutes. I learned a little bit more about him. He learned a little bit more about me. And we had a really good time. And I guess there was somebody else that they flew in. He's like a... I guess kind of an in-the-middle kind of guy, at least supposedly. He was supposed to be in-the-middle kind of dude who was a libertarian, but he was pro-Trump. And I kind of felt a little bit bad for him because in the 2-hour debate, he spoke for maybe 2 minutes. And it was clear to me that Tim really didn't want to talk to him. He wanted to talk to me. And I was sitting, right across from Tim. And this libertarian guy, I felt kind of bad for him because he was, like, not a part of the show, like, at all. But anyway, so I walk in there. They were really nice to me. It was nice meeting everybody behind the scenes of the show. Again, they were very cordial. I have nothing negative to say about anybody that I met. And if something happened that rubbed me the wrong way, I would be honest with it, and I would tell you guys on the show right now. But it wasn't. They were very professional. They were very kind. They were very nice, and I appreciated that. The driver was very nice. I guess George Santos was in studio the day before me. And Peter Navarro was in there a couple days ago, so I was right after those guys. And so it was pleasant that they were nice people. Okay, so I sit down in this studio, and it was a little bit surreal because I've watched his show plenty of times. I disagree with him on a number of different issues, but it was a little bit surreal to be sitting right across from him. And hey, I finally get to debate this guy for 2 hours. Keep in mind, I really didn't know what we were going to be talking about, but I didn't care. I was ready to go. I was ready to go to war. So his co-host is sitting to my left. The libertarian guy is sitting to my left alongside Tim Pool, and Tim Pool is literally like right across from me, 3 feet away. So the show starts. And we talked about a number of different issues. We talked about Charlie Kirk. We talked about immigration. I talked about personally why I hate Donald Trump. We talked about a number of different topics. We talked about abortion. But I want to start by playing you this clip because we talked about immigration to start the show. And my opinion is that Tom Homan and the Trump administration said they were prioritizing going after violent criminals. And my point was, well, it doesn't appear that way when you see a bunch of these ICE agents outside of courtrooms tackling nonviolent criminals and hanging out outside of Home Depot. It doesn't appear to me that they're making a priority out of those that are violent criminals. That was the point that I was trying to make, and this got really heated to start the show when we talked about immigration. Have a listen to this.
Related to what you're saying.
I figure the prioritization
I think
would be
you
around
lack the
tracking
cognitive
and
ability to connect the dots.
No, I think I do, and I think this comes down to...
Let's try this again. A priority doesn't mean the outcome is guaranteed.
I understand that.
So pointing out a bunch of nonviolent criminal aliens were arrested doesn't mean they're not prioritizing violent criminal aliens.
Okay, well, it doesn't appear to me that they are. And if
but
you
that's,
think that
again,
they are...
that's an opinion and not an argument.
Well, if you think that they are, then you're entitled to your opinion. But I don't believe that they are. When you're tackling people and nonviolent criminals outside of courthouses in front of Home Depot or teachers, I've seen the videos.
Not a question of priority.
You don't even need to track anybody for that. They're showing up to the courthouse and telling you who they are. So,
and that's not a question of priority.
To track the criminals.
These things you're pointing out are two different situations.
You pointed out that 40% of those deported are violent criminals. That's outsized from the percentage of legal immigrants that are here that are actually violent criminals. So Trump is actually punching above his weight when it comes to deporting violent criminals.
I want violent criminals out of this country.
All criminals.
Clear on that.
So he's doing really well.
Hold on a second. So you want accountability for criminals? Is that right, Tim?
Yes.
Okay. Then why would you support a 34-count felon?
He's not a felon.
This is the craziest whataboutism I've ever seen.
What was he charged with?
Not whataboutism.
What's the criminal charge?
Is he a 34-count felon, convicted felon? Yes or no?
No.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not.
He wasn't sentenced, but he was convicted by a jury. Was he not?
It's not.
Was he found guilty or not guilty of 34 counts?
What were the charges?
I'm asking you a question.
The answer is no.
Why do you answer the question? Maybe you're the one with the cognitive difficulties.
The answer is no. The answer is no. The answer is no again, no again, no again. Now tell me what he was charged with.
So wait, the jury did not find Donald Trump guilty?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so it is very, very difficult to have a good faith debate with somebody who cannot admit the obvious. Now, you can disagree with the charges that were put forth. You can say that they were misdemeanors. You can make the argument of why you think they were only misdemeanors and they were put to the level of felony just to go after Donald Trump. You could make that argument until the cows come home. And the fact of the matter is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your opinions are on the validity of the case. The only thing that I said was a jury found him guilty on 34 felony counts. Now, that is a factually accurate statement. You can disagree, just like you can disagree with a jury that found O.J. Simpson not guilty of double murder. Of course, I think O.J. Simpson was a double murderer. But if somebody asked me, was O.J. Simpson found guilty of double murder, I would say no. I think the jury got it wrong. So instead of Tim Pool saying, I think the jury got it wrong, he's flat out being disingenuous by saying, no, the jury did not find him guilty on 34 felony counts. According to our laws, according to our courts, that's exactly what the jury did. That was the only point that I was trying to make. And I want you to listen right after that when we start talking about the morals or the lack thereof of Donald Trump. And I try to state the case to Tim that, listen, you have a daughter. Are you comfortable with this guy being the president of the United States? What if he went into your daughter's dressing room? I try to make that claim. And I want you to listen to this because I think it's very important to see how quickly Tim Pool doesn't want to talk about the morals or lack thereof of Donald Trump and immediately brings up Barack Obama. This is fascinating to me. Have a listen to this. You have a 6-year-old daughter, right? Which, by the way, congratulations.
No, I don't.
Oh, I thought you had a daughter. I
do, but she's not 6.
Well, by the way, congratulations on that.
I appreciate it.
So
now we're nice again.
I like good-spirited debates. I like this stuff. So, Tim, if your daughter was 12 or I don't know how old she is, but if she was 12 or 13 years old and she was in a pageant and a creepy man went in there without her permission and talked about it sexually on the Howard Stern show, which he did.
Okay, wait, hold on.
Yep.
Were we
I don't know what's funny about that.
Were we just talking? We're just talking about the court case.
We're talking
with
about
Trump.
the moral aspect of Donald Trump now because we've talked about morals.
Oh, he's a pig.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have
he's got serious decorum problems and attitude problems.
Forget about the.
He did stop World War III, though.
Forget about the legal argument for a moment, okay? Forget about the legalities of Donald Trump. I'm just asking.
So he's not a felon.
Why should we forget about that?
Well, because I'm asking about morals now. I'm talking about the moral aspect of why I don't support him, okay? And I'm trying to have a conversation with you about morals. Are you comfortable? You're comfortable with the leader of the free world being a liable sexual abuser who's had dozens of women that have accused him of rape or sexual assault, including his ex-wife in
that's
court
all
documents?
Bad. That's all bad.
It's all really. It's kind of really bad, isn't it?
You know what? I have a trouble with the United States of America, especially because Barack Obama murdered a 16-year-old American citizen by bombing a civilian restaurant in Yemen.
You see, in the world of politics and debate and radio and TV, we call that a pivot. You see how quickly he pivoted from Donald Trump? That's my biggest issue here. I'm trying to make the case for why Donald Trump, in my opinion, is a horrible human being with no moral character. So what Tim says is, well, he's a pig, but let's talk about Barack Obama. First of all, there's no evidence to suggest that Barack Obama intentionally tried to kill anybody. Number two, there is evidence, proven, that Donald Trump is a criminal. Now, whether you want to say he's a felonious criminal or not, okay, fine. Have a debate on that. Jury found him guilty on 34 felony counts. You can disagree with it. You can say they got it wrong. That's fine. You can have that conversation. Donald Trump is also a liable sexual abuser. And the reason why I brought up Tim's daughter, my understanding is she's somewhere around 6 months old. As I said, fast forward 12 or 13 years, if your daughter was in a beauty pageant, God forbid, would you want some creepy old man going into the locker room when she's unchanging for sexual purposes? Of course the answer would be no. There's no father that would want that. And I tried to make that case to Tim, and do you see how quickly he pivoted to Barack Obama? Very, very disappointing. Now, here's where we really got into it, and Tim Pool is trying to make the case that because I couldn't name the 34 felony counts, and because I couldn't go into detail and I didn't have it in front of me, everything that Donald Trump was charged and convicted of, that somehow I don't know what I'm talking about when I say Donald Trump was found guilty by a jury of 34 felony counts. And because I can't dive into the case and give you specifics on exactly what he did or didn't do, Tim's trying to discredit me because I can't give you the list of all the felonies, which obviously I disagree with that argument altogether. It doesn't matter whether I know a lot about the case or not. Here's what we know. A jury found him guilty on 34 felony counts. You can disagree with the outcome. You can disagree with how the prosecution put those in place. You can disagree with the judge. You can disagree with the jury. But it doesn't change my opinion, and that's where things get heated because he's saying, name the crime. Name what Donald Trump did. Have a listen to this.
I'm going to try this one more time. If you keep making non sequiturs.
It's not a non sequitur.
It is, because I asked you a question. You've ignored it.
I haven't ignored it.
What was the case?
So here's what I know about the case. Okay? It's very simple.
Yeah.
Unlike Barack Obama, which you had mentioned he's a murderer, you don't want to talk about the fact that that's never been proven in a court of law. But
what does that have to do with what I asked you? Tell me about the Eugene Carroll case.
Because a jury found him liable for sexual abuse. I don't have to know everything about the case.
No, you just believe what you're told.
To you. No, I believe in our justice system.
Let's do this.
I believe in our justice system.
Here's how I operate. I will hear a claim and I will fact check it.
Sure.
And try and dig through the facts to see if there's merit. You will believe what you're told.
So everything on the right when it comes to Donald Trump, there's no merit to it, even though he's a convicted 34-count felon. But those were made up. Right, sure. And then
you don't even know the crime.
I don't have to know the crime to know that a jury found him guilty in a court of law. You can disagree with the outcome.
You do.
I disagree with the
Nelson Mandela was a criminal too. He got locked up.
Hey, sometimes the justice system gets it wrong. I think we could agree on that.
So if you
not
don't,
my type is a better defense than the glove doesn't fit, I think.
I think the question, you know what? We can just pause right here and say to everybody who's listening, I think my point is I can tell you the facts of these cases and why I have doubts, and you don't know anything about them.
So here's a fact. Donald Trump is a 34-count felon. You can disagree with it, but you can say incorrect till the cows come home. He wasn't sentenced, but he was convicted on 34 felony counts. Now, you can disagree with that. Okay, you can disagree
Name
with
the crime.
That's fine.
Name the crime.
You don't have to name the crime.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't. No, I don't have to name the crime. Factual. That's all I was being there. Factual. Oh, Brian, you don't know all the intricacies of the case. Name me all the felony counts. I don't have to. I didn't have it in front of me. Didn't have to. Yeah, I did say that, the Stormy Daniels stuff and misappropriating funds and the fraud, I brought all that stuff up. But the only point that I was trying to make, which went right over everybody in the studio, was a jury, and I'm speaking very slowly and distinctly here, a jury found him guilty on 34 felony counts. Now, if you think those felony counts were falsified and they were raised from misdemeanors to felonies, he is appealing it, and we will see if he wins in a court of law. The only point that I was trying to make is a jury found him guilty. And Tim flat out looks at me and says, no. How do you have a good faith debate with somebody like that? And then we go back to the Eugene Carroll stuff. Again, Eugene Carroll and Donald Trump was found liable for sexually abusing Eugene Carroll. The judge in the case characterized it as rape. And this drives me nuts because, in a way, Tim is trying to make the case that because it happened 30-plus years ago, the case loses credibility. And then I use the term, what about Bill Cosby? He's saying he's not a rapist. What about Harvey Weinstein? He's not a rapist. It's such a ridiculous defense of Donald Trump here. Have a listen to this. I was talking also about the moralities of the case, and you were asking me about Eugene Carroll. And while I don't want to go into the details of that case, I wasn't there.
You don't know either.
Okay, but he was.
I do.
Again, it goes back to what I said earlier.
What was he accused of doing?
He was found liable for sexual abuse.
What does that mean?
The
what
judge
did he do?
Characterized it as rape, as penetrating her with his fingers. A jury found that he was liable. Now, I wasn't there. You weren't there. But here's what I do know.
What year did it take place?
I don't recall. It was many years ago. But
it was 30 years ago.
But the point is, he has a track record with how he has treated women from a moral standpoint.
How was it? Let me ask you this question. How was it that Eugene Carroll was able to bring a case 30 years after the fact?
You're asking me how?
It's very important to the case.
Okay, well,
it's actually a key component.
So by your argument, Bill Cosby's never raped anybody before.
I asked you a question.
And by your logic, because it was 30 years ago, it couldn't have happened. Why are you asking me that?
You're changing the subject again.
I'm not changing the subject at all. I think everybody can understand why Tim Pool brought that up. How was she able to do this if it was 30 years ago? Well, first of all, every case is different. And in some instances, especially when it comes to being liable, you can file a lawsuit against somebody. And then the jury decides whether it's credible or not. And I hate that argument. You hear that argument? Oh, well, it was 30 years ago. So does that mean Bill Cosby never raped anybody? Does that mean Harvey Weinstein never sexually? It's a ridiculous argument. I don't care if it was 30 years ago or 3 minutes ago or 100 years ago. Again, I go back to facts. The fact of the matter is a jury found that Donald Trump was liable for sexually abusing E. Jean Carroll. He is a liable sexual abuser. And Tim could try to defend Donald Trump until the cows come home. It doesn't change the fact that Donald Trump was found guilty, a jury of his peers, on 34 felony counts, and Donald Trump was found by a jury to be liable for sexually abusing E. Jean Carroll. Now, you can appeal, and you can do anything you want, and you can, say why you think it's unfair, and it was a Democrat jury. I hear all the excuses from the left, and Tim was just running down the list. And then he tried to say, because I don't know all the specifics with these 34 counts, and because I don't know all the specifics when it comes to the E. Jean Carroll case, I don't know what I'm talking about, so he's not guilty. He's not liable, which is absolutely not an argument. Now, in this clip, I finally get Tim to admit that Donald Trump, maybe not the greatest guy in the world. I finally get Tim, for once, to admit this.
You could get
listen,
seriously
he's a really
hurt.
bad guy. A guy wouldn't say, when he talked about John McCain and he said he didn't respect him because he was captured. I tend not to like people who are captured. I felt that should have been disqualifying right there.
I was mad when he made fun of Rand Paul's hair, but then he started
that's
debating
different.
Hillary, and all
Listen,
the feelings of
Tim,
anger went away.
I don't like J.D. Vance. I don't like Ron DeSantis, but I'll tell you something I would never do. Shit on their military service. I respect anybody who serves this country, and I respect their military service. When you say you don't respect somebody because they were captured, can you admit and agree with me that that is just an awful, despicable thing to say?
Of course, I've said it before.
I don't think the Zoomers are going to care about that, though, because they've lost faith in all institutions.
When John McCain died, there are so many people that I know that just mercilessly attacked him for being a warmongering neocon. And I certainly didn't like him for those reasons. But Lord have mercy, the man was tortured for years.
For 5 years, yeah.
And was permanently disabled because of it. And
right.
I said nothing but nice things when he died, despite really despising him.
Well, that's nice of you. I think that's the right thing to say. I thought when he took the microphone from that woman, if you remember that moment when the woman's called, Barack Hussein Obama, I thought that was a great moment for the country.
Absolutely.
And Tim, I guess my point is Donald Trump would never do that. And I
agree, yeah.
And that's the point I'm trying to make. We can have disagreements. So I talk about that moment a lot with John McCain, right? Takes the microphone from the woman, and he says, "No, ma'am, Barack Obama's a decent man. We just disagree on policy." Something Donald Trump would never do, ever. So listen, I guess you could call that a win. I got Tim Pool to admit that Donald Trump's a bad guy for the most part. I got him to admit about some of the despicable things that Donald Trump has done and said. Notice how he's so quick about that, though, and immediately he wants to turn to defending Donald Trump. That's the part that I really don't understand. But at least I got him to admit that. That was the only point I was trying to make in that entire part of the podcast. Donald Trump was found guilty by a jury. Whether you think they're felonies or not is irrelevant. A jury found him guilty on 34 felony counts. That's the only argument that I was trying to make. We'll see if he wins on appeal. Donald Trump is a liable sexual abuser. A jury of his peers found him liable for sexual abuse. And by the way, I don't have all the evidence. Tim doesn't have all the evidence, even though he claims he knows everything about these cases. The jury got to see all the evidence. The public didn't get to see all of it. That's something else that kind of ticked me off a little bit. But at least I got Tim to admit a few things there because I think he had to. So then the conversation again gets very heated because I guess Tim Pool was somewhat close with Charlie Kirk. Now, I've made my opinions very clear over the course of the last month and a half or so on Charlie Kirk. In fact, I made my opinions clear way before he was murdered. That I don't support political violence. It's horrible what happened to him, even though as a human being I couldn't stand him and I thought he was a terrible person. But I would never celebrate the murder of anybody. And we get into this heated debate about Charlie Kirk, and then he asks me for an example of something that Charlie Kirk has said. Now, I've talked about this a lot. I talked about this on Piers Morgan last month. You know, when Charlie Kirk gloated and smiled when talking about Paul Pelosi getting bludgeoned with a hammer and almost killed. This is the part of the debate where I think it kind of made Tim Pool look a little not good, for lack of a better term, because I do come with receipts. And I came with some receipts when it came to Charlie Kirk and why I feel the way I feel about him. And there is a difference between celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, which I would never do, and not willing to celebrate his life. So this is a long clip, but I think it's a very important clip. I wanted you to hear the entire thing. This is the exchange when we start getting into Charlie Kirk. Have a listen to this. The man was a father. He's a husband. I despise a lot of the things he said. I thought he spread a lot of bad things.
Like what?
Okay, let's start off with Paul Pelosi. Okay, so, and I've watched this video extensively, and listen, he called out what happened to Paul Pelosi, the bludgeoned with a hammer, right? Yes. He said, oh, that was horrible what happened to him. But then with a smile on his face, this was like a day or two after, and by the way, Paul Pelosi almost was killed, okay? The guy's in jail right now. He said he would call one of his listeners a hero if someone put up the bail for this guy. He said it with a smirk on his face, and let's ask him some questions. He said it with a smile on his face. That would be like me going on the air, which, by the way, I would never do, and say, hey, let's raise some money for Tyler Robinson, and let's ask him some questions. And if you raise money for Tyler Robinson and get him out of prison on bail, you're a hero. Tim, that is despicable. I am not a Nancy Pelosi fan. I'm not a Paul Pelosi fan. The guy almost died, okay? I played the clip. You could play it for yourself. I think it's despicable.
Yeah, we should play it.
Well, and Brian, real quick, I mean, you're saying that you just disagree with things he said, but
Sure.
On October 30th, you said he's worse than garbage.
Yeah, I thought Charlie Kirk was garbage. I stand by that statement, and I'll give you reasons why.
On July 7th, you said you hated him.
Yeah.
I don't believe you that you just disagreed with things he said. That sounds like
Okay,
you.
wait, hold on a second.
I'll happily answer that. I'll defend everything that I've said about.
Now, I'm not going to outright defend every component of what Kirk said, but there is a little bit more context.
Yeah, I know there's context.
Charlie Kirk was saying so this is in the context of not knowing why the attacker did it. The speculation from a lot of people was that there was some illicit activity going on with the Pelosi's.
Which was not true.
It didn't make sense that they didn't have proper security. Who was this weird guy? Charlie Kirk said, bail him out and ask him some questions.
The guy almost died. Now, listen, let me be clear.
Let me give you contemporary context matters.
You could do a 2-hour podcast, and in 99% of that podcast, you can call out what happened to Paul Pelosi. But with a smile on your face, if you call somebody a hero for bailing a guy out who almost killed somebody,
I mean, I'm looking at Politico.com. I'm looking at the New York Times.
I hate that.
I'm looking
It's
at all
hard to
these
believe.
places, and there's a little bit of mention here. For example, Politico says top Republicans reject any link between GOP rhetoric and Paul Pelosi assault. Of course you should reject any link. Why is the Republican Party, why is the conservative movement to blame for gay schizophrenic nudists that are hemp jewelry makers breaking into somebody's home, or maybe not breaking into somebody's home? Why are we to blame for that exactly?
See, I got to pause real quick.
That's not the clip that I was talking about, but yeah, go ahead.
Contemporary, there's more. It's another minute.
I got you.
The contemporary context is what's important. We cannot look back after already knowing the details you know and scoff at a comment made at a time when we didn't know.
Okay, but here's what I will say to
and
that.
Why is he still in jail? Why has he not been bailed out? By the way, if some amazing patriot out there in San Francisco or the Bay Area wants to really be a midterm hero, someone should go and bail this guy out. I bet his bail's like $30,000 or $40,000. Bail him out and then go ask him some questions.
It's not a hero, Tim.
No matter what his bail is, they're going after him with attempted murder, political assassination, all this sort of stuff. I'm not qualifying it. I think it's awful. It's not right. But why is it that in Chicago you're able to commit murder and be out the next day? Why is it that you're able to trespass, second-degree murder, arson, threat of public official, cashless bail? This happens all over San Francisco, but if you go after the Pelosi's...
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's not
true.
So
the full context is whether he's right or wrong.
He was wrong. Attempted murder, he's wrong.
He's making an argument that in these jurisdictions, they tend to revolving door a lot of these criminals, but not the guy who attacked Paul Pelosi. And he's making 2 points as it pertains to a midterm hero who would bail him out, and that is show Democrats this is what you do, and also ask him questions, because at the time, they didn't know if this guy was like buying drugs or something.
I understand what you're saying, but the point that I'm just trying to make here, and I can give you many of other examples, the day after somebody is almost killed with a hammer, you can have a conversation about, well, geez, why are these people not getting bailed out and why are these people getting bail? To call somebody a hero or a patriot.
A midterm hero.
Yeah. He also a patriot, just like, you know.
I think they'd be a patriot because
ridiculous.
they would be able to ask this guy questions, which got information, which then affected the midterms.
Don't you think it'd be a little bit more prevalent for law enforcement to ask him questions than somebody who bails him out? It's ridiculous.
It's immaterial. I give Charlie Kirk's statement here a D-.
Okay,
it was,
I appreciate that.
I don't think it was a good thing to say, but I understand the greater context of what he was saying. Albeit Charlie has had many statements where it's like, Charlie, you could have said that a lot better.
All right, I'll tell you something. The last 10 seconds of that clip, to get Tim Pool to even admit that was like a win. I thought it was an F-, but whatever. I'll take the win there. Okay, he admits that what Charlie Kirk said was bad. D-. Okay, fine. And by the way, the context was Charlie Kirk lying. Tell me where in the United States of America you could be charged with attempted murder and then get cashless bail the next day. It doesn't pertain to attempted murder. Charlie Kirk was lying. That's the part that gets me so damn angry. If you disagree with some Democrat policies, fine. But there is no defense for that type of behavior. And by the way, I could have brought up plenty of other topics, things that Charlie Kirk has said that I find utterly despicable. But the conversation gets a little worse, and then his co-host gets involved and makes some really weird comments. But the conversation certainly continues to go down a rabbit hole. Have a listen to this. Republican, he was a Trump.
That's not political violence.
Okay, well, listen.
But I also don't believe your full-throated condemnation when you said you hate him and you believe he's worse than garbage. I think Osama bin Laden was that, and I celebrated.
Okay, so there's
Why aren't you celebrating?
Okay, I hate people that...
He hates people. He admitted it. We got you.
He said he hates Charlie Kirk.
I don't hate Tim. I don't hate Tim because we're both two bald white brothers. I actually am enjoying this conversation, even though I've been called... That's okay,
You can't do that. I'm mixed race. You can't. You're oppressing me.
Listen, I'm going to be very clear on this, okay? I hated Charlie Kirk.
You can tell.
Okay, now, it doesn't mean that I wanted him to be murdered. I want to be very clear on that. He was a father. He was a husband. My understanding, he was a good father, right? I hate the constant attacks on brown people, on gay people, on women who get abortions, calling them murderers, which, by the way, he's called time and time again, which I think is absurd. So, again, I'm trying to make my point very crystal clear. They're trying to get me in a gotcha. I stand by everything I've ever said about Charlie Kirk. I hated Charlie Kirk. But it doesn't mean I'm going to celebrate his murder. And by the way, I brought this up to Tim. I don't think we have the clip of this, but I brought this up to Tim, and I asked him, people on the right are saying Democrat elected officials celebrated the death of Charlie Kirk. Riley Gaines said that on the Pierce Morgan show, and that's when I erupted at her. And I said, can you please name me one elected official that has celebrated the death? He says AOC. I say that's a lie. AOC called out the political violence and the murder. She also made the case that here's why I'm not celebrating the life of Charlie Kirk, and he doesn't deserve the Medal of Freedom. And here's why, because he's made racist comments and bigoted comments and misogynist comments. That doesn't mean you're celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk. And Tim Pool was wrong when he said that on his show, and I pointed that out as well. But I have to play this one more clip. Listen, his co-host seemed like a very nice guy. We had a very pleasant conversation afterwards. I'm forgetting his name. But he said something really dumb, okay? I'm sure they're saying that I said things that are dumb too. But this is really stupid. He's trying to make the case that I hate terrorists like Osama bin Laden the same as I hated Charlie Kirk, which is absurd. And you know it was absurd because Tim Pool tried to interject, and he wanted to move on because he knew that his co-host was making himself out to be a clown. But have a listen to this.
I didn't have compassion for Osama bin Laden.
I'm not. You think I would compare? Hold on a second. That's ridiculous. You think I would compare Charlie Kirk to being a mass murderer and a terrorist?
He's worse than garbage.
Okay, saying somebody is worse than garbage is not saying that I think he's a terrorist that's responsible for murdering hundreds of that. That's a ridiculous
But let's move a little bit forward because we've got a few minutes left.
Yeah, let's move a little bit forward because you're making my co-host look like a jackass. By the way, I hate quarterbacks. Okay, I hate the New York Knicks. okay? I grew up a Celtics fan. That doesn't mean I think they're terrorists, okay? Yes, I hated Charlie Kirk for what he represented. Doesn't mean I've ever called Charlie Kirk a murderer or a mass murderer like Osama bin Laden, who led al-Qaeda. It's just such a stupid argument that guy made. And I was like, kind of like raising my eyebrows. And I was like, what? What are you saying? So if you hate somebody, that means you want them dead? If you hate somebody, that means you think they're no better or worse than Osama bin Laden? Anyway, just a ridiculous argument by his co-host, and I couldn't even believe he said that. We also got into the healthcare debate. And by the way, if you're just joining us, did Tim Pool's show on Friday. I flew out to D.C. and then went to West Virginia. I went to his podcast studio, which was very nice, by the way, I have to admit. And they did treat me very nice. And I will be doing another show, we'll talk about that a little bit later, in D.C. live on November 8th with Tim Pool in front of a live audience. So we got into the healthcare debate. And my opinion on healthcare is very clear, which is, if you're an undocumented immigrant and you need life-saving care, we should be able to give that to you. Democrats are trying to save what was the healthcare system before the big and beautiful bill. That's why we're in a government shutdown now, because Republicans want to take healthcare away from 20 million Americans. That's why we're in the situation we're in now. And I got to be honest with you, I was very disappointed in this part of the conversation with Tim Pool, because, did I call him cool? Tim Pool. Because he basically said, verbatim, he doesn't care that certain people aren't getting their paychecks, which I found absurd, and I was shocked to hear this. Have a listen. Let's backtrack a little bit, Tim, for a moment. Hold on a second. Families and fathers and mothers that are working in all different types of different positions and government jobs, they rely on that paycheck, and they're not getting a paycheck because of a government shutdown, regardless of whether you blame the right or the left.
Should drop their illegal immigrants.
And your response to them would be, I don't care, quit your job?
Well, one of the responses I could say is stop relying on big daddy government to take care of you. My first statement is, I'm sorry the Democrats did this to you. Okay, maybe if they didn't want to give ACA benefits to illegal immigrants, the government would be open. Now, Republicans could, as I already mentioned, end the filibuster right now and reopen government, but they don't want to because Trump wants to fire a ton of people. So I'm sitting back being like, well, it's what is it called? The Xanatos Gambit. I was reading about this the other day, where no matter the outcome, your side benefits. Trump's attitude is, if Democrats want to give illegal immigrants health care under ACA and keep the government shut down, they won't give us the 5, I think they need, 6 votes?
6, I believe, yeah.
6 votes. And he's like, okay, then the government's shut down, fine. I'm going to start firing people. Okay. Win-win.
So he's blaming the Democrats for the shutdown. He said in that interview that I did with him that he didn't care that people were losing their benefits, their paychecks. He said he didn't care. I guess I just look at the world very differently than Tim Pool, whereas I don't care whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. If you get up in the morning and you go to work, whether it be for the government, you could be a TSA agent, whatever the case may be, I do care about you. I want you to get paid if you're doing your job, and I would imagine many of them doing the job well, you deserve to get paid. I was shocked to hear Tim Pool say that. And this was, probably, I was called some names in this podcast, which, by the way, doesn't bother me at all. But this was one of the probably most emotional moments of this debate that I had with Tim Pool. We're talking about health care. Tim Pool is a big supporter of Donald Trump. And I said, if you're going to complain about Obamacare, which clearly Tim Pool does and every MAGA Republican does, then where's Donald Trump's replacement plan? Where is Donald Trump's replacement plan? He's supposed to be a serious policymaker. Where is the replacement plan? So I want to play this clip for you, and we had to bleep out a few swears, but this is mesmerizing to me that Tim Pool has no problem and actually appreciates the fact that Donald Trump has no solutions for the problems with our healthcare system. Have a listen to this.
Possible.
I want to ask you a question, though. You support Donald Trump, obviously, and I'm curious, what is Donald Trump's healthcare plan? For 9 years, we've heard a replacement plan is coming to Obamacare. We've heard the bitching and complaining. Yeah. I mean, Where is the replacement plan? He's had 9 years. Is that a serious policy person?
Oh, it's fantastic. Obamacare is great. I'm happy.
They fired, what, 30% of that?
All this stuff that we're going through with healthcare and
Tim, that wasn't my question. I'm not asking you what your opinions are on Obamacare. What I'm asking you for is what is Donald Trump's replacement plan? Where is it?
His plan is to deregulate.
Who cares?
What do you mean? Who cares?
You don't like Obamacare?
The question isn't about Obamacare.
Do you like Obamacare? Yes or no?
I think it could make some improvements.
But generally good?
I think it's okay. Average.
Okay, so then why would I want a replacement plan?
Because Donald Trump is the guy who you support has been about it for 9 years.
Fucking what?
So fucking what? When somebody complains about something and you're the president of the United States and you call yourself a policymaker,
actually,
you're supposed to come up with a replacement plan.
One of the reasons I support Trump is that
he doesn't have one.
That's why I support him, actually. That's why I support him.
I want you to think about that for a second, because this is mind-boggling. There were a lot of moments in this 2-hour podcast where I was kind of blown away. He voted for Donald Trump because Donald Trump doesn't have solutions to the problems that Americans are facing. That's what he's saying. I think most of us would agree our healthcare system isn't perfect. While I think Obamacare overall has been more of a positive than a negative, obviously Tim Pool disagrees with me. I think Obamacare is horrible. Most of the MAGA Republicans think Obamacare is horrible. Donald Trump has been complaining about it for 9 years. So my point was, don't you think you should probably come up with some solutions to some problems we have if you're going to continue to complain about it? Tim Pool's response, I don't care. Is that a good faith argument? I want to see a replacement plan. Then we can discuss it. Remember Donald Trump's first tenure in office? Oh, that replacement plan is going to be there in 2 weeks. It's going to be there in a month. Why didn't he just say he didn't have a plan? He lied. And Tim Pool is saying he supports Donald Trump, and one of the reasons why he supports him is because he doesn't have a solution. Folks, is that serious? Is that a serious conversation? I don't know. I was just kind of blown away. Listen, overall, I enjoyed my time on that podcast, even though I was mesmerized by a few of the things that Tim Pool said. I'm not going to sit here and lie and tell everybody that they were horrible to me, they treated me terrible. Listen, I don't care if things get heated on a podcast. If people call me names when we're on the air, that doesn't bother me at all. I would never complain about that as long as I can call names back. But they were very cordial to me off the air. All of his producers were very nice to me. Tim was very nice to me. And I did appreciate that. They did treat me with respect. With that being said, they told me some things that were a little bit surprising to me, that some of their guests that they try to get on the show wanted to charge them an upwards of $1 million to be on that show. That there are some Democrats that have done that show, and they have refused to come back. I think it's good to go into that arena, just like I think it's good for liberals or Democrats to go on Fox News, OAN, or Newsmax. I think it's good. And as I've said a million times, and I'll say again, I will debate anybody. Anybody. As much as I despise Nick Fuentes, and I think he's an utter piece of garbage, if he wanted me on his podcast, I would call him that on his podcast, but I'd go on. I will go toe-to-toe with anybody. And I'm not afraid to do so. I have strong convictions, and, you know, that's what I did. But they did treat me well. They treated me with respect, and I did appreciate that. And on November 8th, in front of a live audience, I'll be debating Tim Pool, Myron Gaines, of all people, Alex Stein. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and I am looking forward to that in Washington, D.C. I didn't really get to spend a lot of time in West Virginia. I went right back to the airport because then I had to go to Utah late Friday evening, so I didn't have a lot of time to really enjoy myself in West Virginia. I can tell you right now, it's kind of a hillbilly area that I was around, and it's not a place that I would probably want to live. Washington, D.C., a little bit different, very expensive, very different than West Virginia. But I did enjoy my time. I did enjoy going on the show. I thought it went well, you know, from the perspective of I called Donald Trump a 34-count convicted felon. Technically, legally speaking, he's not a convicted felon because he wasn't sentenced. The reason why he wasn't sentenced is not because he was on appeal, as Tim Pool said. The reason why he wasn't sentenced is because he won the re-election, and he's the president of the United States. Or he would have been a convicted felon. So, okay, if you want to go by those semantics, we can do that. But all I simply stated was, in closing here, is that a jury found him guilty. that a jury found Trump liable for sexual abuse. That's the I don't have to know all the ins and outs of the case to state those facts. Those are facts. You can disagree with them, and he was trying to quiz me on the counts and what how it was unconstitutional and it was unprecedented. Okay, you can have those opinions, but it doesn't change what I said, which are facts, not opinions. Fact: Donald Trump was found by a jury to be convicted of 34 felony counts. Fact: Donald Trump is a liable sexual abuser, proven in a court of law, a jury of his peers. Those are facts. And he can, say no, and he can also say the earth is flat, but it doesn't change my conviction, and it doesn't change my opinions. So when I got back to town late last night, and I woke up earlier this morning, we had Donald Trump making some ridiculous statements in Air Force One today. Now, as we know, Donald Trump has taken our tax dollars to try to bail out Argentina and their economy. It's funny, though, they don't really want to talk about the numbers, but Donald Trump did admit that on Air Force One today. Have a listen to this.
Results from the Argentina election, it looks like the United Party.
Wow, what a great question that is. I love that question because that was a big win in Argentina. I want to congratulate the victor, and he was a big victor, and he had a lot of help from us. He had a lot of help. I gave him an endorsement, very strong endorsement, and it was really unexpected to have a victory of that. Some people thought it would be hard to win, and not only did he won by a lot. So Argentina, that was a great thing, and I give Scott and I give Jameis and everybody, Marco, a lot of credit for that because, we are sticking with a lot of the countries in South America. We're focused very much on South America, and we're getting a real strong handle on South America in a lot of ways, including the fact that we don't want their drugs. We don't want drugs coming into our country, and you're seeing that.
Yeah, I think that statement we probably already know when he said, quote, "We help them out a lot." Yeah, that's definitely America first, isn't it? You orange orangutan buffoon, you adjudicated sexual abusing fool. Yeah, we do know that. You did help them out a lot, didn't you? I mean, imagine if, like Joe Biden, I say this every day, imagine if Joe Biden did this. Imagine if Barack Obama did this. We bail out another country's economy. And for what? What do we get in return? It's a joke. So Trump gave us some revelations that we did not know. What a shocker, ladies and gentlemen. I thought that the Trump administration was going to be fully transparent with the American people on Donald Trump's health. I want you to keep in mind, these are the same people for years now that have been saying the Joe Biden administration hid Joe Biden's health. He had dementia, which, by the way, was never proven. He was in the bunker. People were covering for him. They knew that his health was deteriorating. We hear it time and time again. Time and time again, we hear that. Well, Trump just admitted on Air Force One earlier today that he was given an MRI during his October Walter Reed visit. Now, I'm going to explain to you why this is more serious than Donald Trump or anybody in his administration would lead you to believe. But have a listen to this. This is Donald Trump on Air Force One earlier this morning saying that nobody in the Trump administration have said and that he had an MRI. Have a listen to this.
Walter Reed mentioned advanced medical imaging. Did you get an MRI? Can you tell us what that was?
I did. I got an MRI. It was perfect. Yeah. I mean, I gave you the full results. We had an MRI, and in the machine, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it was perfect. Yeah.
Can you say what in particular they were?
You could ask the doctors. In fact, we have doctors traveling with us, but I think they gave you a very conclusive. Nobody has ever given you reports like I gave you.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's kind of break this down, ladies and gentlemen. You don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar to know what I'm about to say. First of all, MRIs are not routine, no matter how old you are. An MRI is not a routine procedure or test, for lack of a better term. They're given to you when a problem is suspected or in order to rule out some sort of condition that they think you might have. There is no transparency within this administration. Why was an MRI given? If Caroline the Liar Levette or anybody in Donald Trump's administration say, well, this was just routine, there is not one doctor in this country that knows what they're doing that would say they would routinely give one of their patients an MRI. So we're never going to get the answer. We're never going to find out. We know that Donald Trump's health is deteriorating. We know that. He's getting worse by the day. The guy can barely walk, dragging his leg around. He can barely speak. He puts on his 8 layers of orange makeup and his 4 hair transplants, looking like the clown that he is, completely out of shape. It's why we've never seen the guy with his shirt off. And by the way, I don't want to. I'm not sure Melania has ever seen him with his shirt off either, quite frankly. But this was not routine. They're lying to us. There's something going on with his health. We know that. Do you remember the wrist, the hand? It was all purple, and the dragging of the feet. I mean, it's an absolute joke. But they're not going to tell us what's really going on with his health. They won't. They never will. But they're the same people that say Joe Biden was in the bunker and he had Alzheimer's, and the Biden administration, they were hiding it from the American people. Oh, really? What happened at Walter Reed? Why isn't your orange orangutan president? Why won't he answer the question? Why was an MRI conducted on you, Mr. President? Why? It's not routine. Why? What do they think is the problem, Mr. President? I guarantee you nobody in Trump's administration, including Donald Trump, will answer that question. All right, so here's what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, it's been a while since I've heard from all of you. We are going to take your phone calls when we come back at 702-221-7283. Again, that number, 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you would like to be a part of the program. And there's a lot to get to, but I certainly want to get your thoughts on my appearance on the Tim Pool podcast. Listen, say what you want about Tim Pool. He's got one of the biggest podcasts in the world. He's got 2.5 million subscribers. It's a huge podcast. So say what you want about him, but certainly is a large platform to be on. So we'll get your thoughts on that, your thoughts on Donald Trump's health, certainly, and how you think I fared with Tim Pool. I'd like to get your opinions on that as well. So we'll take a quick break. Again, that number to call, 702-221-7283. Your phone calls are next. You're listening to Pushing the Limits. And by the way, we are also going to go to the YouTube Super Chat when we come back as well. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Who would have thought there'd
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. Boy, do I have a big announcement for you. As Donald Trump would say, huge. I'm going to get to that announcement in a moment. But, I talk about healthcare on this show a lot. We just talked about it. I discussed it. We got into a good debate on the Tim Pool show about this. And as you may or may not know, open enrollment is now going through December 7th. And I am so glad to be partnered up with the very good people for free and unbiased Medicare help, the people at Chapter. Now, Chapter can review your options in under 20 minutes. It's completely free. And if they think you're on the right plan, they'll tell you that. They've saved people on average at Chapter around $1,100 a year. That's a lot of money, especially with where people are at living paycheck to paycheck. That's a lot of dough. Plans change all the time. So don't be confused. Let them do the work for you. You see that number on the bottom of the screen, 212-461-4078. Give them a call. We also have the URL there on the bottom. It's completely free. Why wouldn't you do this if you need help with your Medicare coverage? And it seems like a lot of people need a lot of help with it. This is free. The URL there on the bottom as well, askchapter.org/limits. Give them a call, and Chapter will do their best to save you money and make sure you're on the right plan. So as I mentioned earlier, I have a big announcement to make. I can't believe I'm saying this, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm really mean to him. But Donald J. Trump, the 45th and 47th president of the United States, is going to be joining us in studio tomorrow. That's going to be a lot of fun, ladies and gentlemen. So you're not going to want to miss that. How often do you get the president to be able to? And he's also going to be taking phone calls. So I think, I don't know, should I give out the time he's going to be on? Because I know there's security issues. I'm not going to give out the time because I know there's security issues with the president. Yeah, we don't want that. But let's just say it'll be early in the show tomorrow. Okay. Early in the show tomorrow, Donald J. Trump is going to be joining us in studio. So you're certainly not going to want to miss that. He will also be taking phone calls. I'm going to be taking phone calls myself right now. The number to call if you'd like to be a part of the conversation is 702-221-7283. Again, that number, if you would like to be a part of the show, is 702-221-7283. David on the YouTube Super Chat said, and thank you, David, for your support, says, Happy Thanksgiving. Christians around the country will gleefully line up at church food banks, praising Donnie for his eminent brilliance. We can fix this now. No uncontested ballots in 26. No snap. Hannah says it's not much, but thank you for all that you do. Well, Hannah, we appreciate anybody that can support this show in any way that they can. And Hannah, I'm very grateful to you. Thank you so much. Britziker says, Poole said Trump isn't guilty, but then says he's appealing the conviction. What a total moron. Britziker, that's actually a very good point that you make. He's not guilty. Yeah, it's very strange. Maria, thank you very much for your very generous donation. Says, I think you did a great job. Well, thank you, Maria. I certainly appreciate that. That's very nice of you to say. That's why we're taking phone calls right now. Let's get to business, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, there are some right-wing radio hosts out there that say, let's get to our busy phone calls, and they get like one phone call an hour. Our phone calls are clogged for the entire show. Just wanted to be clear on that. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Jason. Jason is first up on PTL. What's up, Jason? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Jason. How'd you think that went with Tim Poole?
For the table. Number two, I could never go to Fox News because their whole scheme is to overtalk you and never let you speak. I watched them start doing that with Bill O'Reilly, and it's gotten worse. So I could never go on Fox News because I know if I'm going to say something intelligent, they're going to overtalk me. That's why I give up so much credit to that female on the Five, because she always outwits them all. All four of them can't even deal with her.
So Jason, I hear what you're saying, right? But I think you'll agree with me on this. I think it's also very important for the opposite side of whatever issue to go on the opposition, to go into that situation. I think more Democrats should do that. That's just my personal opinion.
I do understand what you're saying, but see, if you go to somewhere and they're not going to let you speak, and they're not going to let you get, because just think about it, they have a consistent audience of 5 million dumb people. 5 million, every night, 5 million dumb people get on their network and watch and eat up everything they say.
Sure.
But if you come with intelligence and they don't let you give them real knowledge or real information, and all they do is try to make sure.
Yeah, that's true. I'll be honest with you, though. I don't think that I thought that I was able to speak my mind for the most part. They gave me 2 hours, and I in a part of me really feels bad for for the dude that was invited on with the beard, who was supposed to be on there debating as well, and he spoke for maybe a minute. Like Tim Pool just really did not really want to talk to him at all, and I'm like, why did this guy even fly out here? But listen, it was very intense. It was very heated, and I don't think that's the last you'll be hearing about me and Tim Pool, because I'm going to DC to debate him face to face in front of a live audience. So we'll see how that goes.
Job well done. Job well done.
Thanks, Jason. That's good to hear from you, my friend. I appreciate the call. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Scott. Scott is next up on PTL. What's up, Scott?
Hey, how are you?
Hey.
Hope you had a lot of fun.
I did.
Watching you on YouTube. Before I go into my rant, I want to thank Leonard for for being a host last week. I had a lot of fun with him.
Leonard did a great job.
Yeah, he did. My thing is, like, how do you deal with people that don't? He wanted you to answer all the questions about Trump's crime, but when you tell them Trump's a racist, they're like, "Oh, I never heard of that." Like I never heard of Trump being all this and that. So I'm tired of the hypocrisy. But I've had 4 MRIs since June. 2 of them were on my back. 2 of them were on my sinuses. I've had other tests. It's because I had a reason to have them. To me, Trump's a fat. I don't even know how he fit in the damn MRI machine. It must have been an open-ended one.
That's true.
And I don't know how he didn't diarrhea on himself while he was in the damn MRI. He's a cholesterol-laden fat orange pig to me. Anyway,
it's funny. He's the first person to call. He's the first. Thank you, my friend. He's the first person to call everybody else fat and attack everybody else on looks. Have you seen the Crypt Keeper, the orange Crypt Keeper? Have you seen what he looks like? Point very taken. By the way, for people out there that think I did not do a good job on the Tim Pool show, if you think that I lost a debate or argument, I would love for you to call in and tell me why you feel that way. For those of you that are chatting it up on all of our social media platforms, say, Brian, you got destroyed. Okay, call in and have the bravery. I don't even think it's really bravery. Call in and state your case and tell me why you think I lost the debate. I'd love to hear from you. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Brett. Brett is next up on PTL. What's up, Brett?
Hey, what's happening, Brian?
Hey.
How are you? You held your own against Tim Pool. What I'm amazed about is that these people actually have a platform, because I've seen more articulate and more well-spoken people on TikTok than Tim Pool. Mm-hmm. And I just I was a little disappointed that you didn't know more about the Carroll case.
I do. The basics of the E. Jean Carroll case is that, I know the basics of it. It was in a dressing room. He used his fingers. There's certain things I can't say on the radio. It was decades ago. It was in a dressing room. What more is there to say other than the fact that she did tell some of her friends the hours and days after? She did not report it to the police, but a jury found that there was enough evidence to find him liable for it. I don't think you really need to go into I don't think you need to go into the weeds any more than that. And that's what I did on the Tim Pool show. I told him that he digitally used his fingers. The judge characterized it as rape. It happened a long time ago. I guess for me, I don't see the point into going into more of the detail. The only point that I was trying to make was that he's a liable sexual abuser. That was the only point that I was trying to make.
He's a rapist.
Well, I wasn't. We agree on that, but I just didn't see the point to me going into extreme detail on what Donald Trump did. First of all, it's disgusting. And second of all, I know the basics of the case, just like I know the basics of the 34-count felony counts, right? I know about that as well, but it's like I didn't have all the counts in front of me either, but it doesn't mean I was wrong. He's a liable sexual abuser, and he was found guilty by a jury of his peers on 34 felony counts. That's the only point, and that's the only point I was trying to make.
Grew up in, no?
What's that?
In the city he grew up in.
Correct. Exactly. That's the only point that I was trying to make.
How many presidents do you see that are actually not even loved by the people in the place that they grow up? Yeah. He's original in that.
By the way, I normally don't do this, but I have to read this statement on YouTube because it is very funny. One of the comments on YouTube says Tim wanted to know how many fingers. That's kind of funny, actually. But I don't think you have to know the ins and outs of a case just to speak facts. You can disagree with the outcome of a case, and that's fine. I wasn't debating him on the specifics. I was just making a solid, factually based statement, which is, again, he's a liable sexual abuser. And again, he is a 34 count convicted felon. That's all I was saying. And it's also my understanding in New York that you don't have to be sentenced to be a convicted felon. So he was wrong on that avenue as well. Maybe he was talking about Fifth Avenue, where Donald Trump says they can shoot me and my supporters will still support me. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you would like to be a part of the conversation. Let's go to Mark. Mark is next up on PTL. Hello, Mark. Mark, are you there?
Hello?
Yeah, Mark is next.
Hello?
Yes, Mark.
Yeah, you mentioned on the radio, see, I wasn't going to call in, but you had mentioned that anyone who feels that you lost the debate or didn't do very well,
sure,
that they should call in.
Absolutely.
Well, this is the reason why I'm calling in.
Okay, sure.
And I call out people on the right and on the left. And I never voted Republican in all my life, but I'm calling in to tell you you did not win this debate. And I'm going to give you the reason why.
Sure.
Because you should know who Tim Pool was before you went to that debate. You should know who his audience was before you went to this debate. Yes. And they have been fed this MAGA stuff every single day, on and on and on for years with Fox and Tim Pool and everybody else.
I don't know what you mean. I know exactly who Tim Pool is. I know exactly what he represents. I know about the Russian money.
So here's my point.
So how did I lose the debate? How did I lose the debate? I don't understand.
I'm going to explain it to you if you let me talk.
I'm letting you talk.
It's because you had to have known that they're going to deny everything you said.
And I did know that.
Anything that you can't. You did know that, correct. Yeah, but my point is that they overtalked you. They interrupted you.
So I lost the debate. Hold on. So I lost the debate because they overtalked me?
But I'm getting my whole point out, but you keep stopping
me. Who cares if they overtalked me? Make your point. Why did I lose the debate?
I'm trying to.
Okay, go ahead.
Brian, I'm trying to.
Go ahead.
They overtalked you. They interrupted you. And it doesn't matter if they lied or not to their audience because he's feeding their base. And what I mean by you following the rules of the debate and him not, you need to come out of your shell and just present facts. You need to attack.
I did do that.
You need to overtalk them. You need to interrupt them like he does. And you need to not say in a lot of these interviews you do.
Mark, did you watch the whole debate? Did you watch the 2 hours?
Yes, I did.
You watched the whole 2 hours?
Yes,
okay, how many times did he get agitated at me for interrupting him?
My thing is that
hold on. He got frustrated at me because I was interrupting him. I know who he is. I knew what I was getting into. I stated my case about the E. Jean Carroll case. I stated my case about healthcare. I stated my case on why Donald Trump is a despicable human being. I stated why I hated Charlie Kirk, and I gave him examples of that. I talked about healthcare and how I feel about healthcare. I'm the one who really brought up these topics. He didn't really bring up any topics. I'm the one who brought them up. I stated my case on abortion. I'm not sure what else you wanted. You wanted me to call names? Is that what you wanted me to do?
No, I didn't say that, Brian. Did I?
So what did you want me?
Names.
So what did you want me to do differently?
His audience doesn't care about that.
That's not my problem.
But that doesn't mean you won a debate because you brought facts. It's who you win. It's do you convince his base of anything? And
you don't have to. Hold on a second.
And if
Mark,
you didn't, wait,
Mark, what you just said is incorrect, Mark. Okay, you don't necessarily can't win a debate if you don't win over a bunch of cultists. That is ridiculous. Okay, if I'm debating somebody on, I don't know, some right-wing podcast like Clay Travis, I'm not there to try to win over his listeners. They are cultists, and you know that. That doesn't mean I lost the debate because I'm not changing the mind of a right-wing buffoon who looks up to Donald Trump as some sort of messiah. I think you're losing this debate. With respect, Mark, you're entitled.
My question is this to you, Brian. My question is this. If I know you can't win them over. I know that.
So why are you bringing that up then? And why are you saying I lost the debate?
So my point is, what did this debate actually do other than your base?
So that is
and
very
the people on your side.
So
saying,
that is
yeah.
Sure. So that is very different than what you just said about me, quote unquote, losing a debate. You lose a debate when somebody else fact checks you and makes you out to look like a buffoon. I'm sorry, but that did not happen with me. And just because I didn't win over a bunch of cultists doesn't mean I lost the debate. Just because there were times where they hold on. I'm going to answer your question. Just because they interrupted me doesn't mean I lost the debate. By the way, I interrupted them as well. I was able to get my point across on multiple times. And if I felt like I wasn't able to get my point across, I would say, can you please give me 30 seconds to state my case? So I respectfully disagree with you there. Now, you asked me hold on. Let me answer your question. You asked me the question, Mark. Okay. You asked me, what good did it do? Well, there's a couple things the way I would answer that question. First of all, he has an enormous platform. And even if I didn't win over many of his listeners, I got private messages on X, and I got a bunch of messages from people that I could share with you guys, and emails from people that said, I'm a big Tim Pool fan, but I thought you did a great job, one of the better jobs of someone who disagrees with him. I also spoke to his producers and many people behind the scenes who thought it was great, and I challenged him. Now, I'm not looking to win anybody over. That's not why I showed up. I was there to take the platform and state my case. And I believe it is a positive when anybody on the other side can go on what was a very contentious debate and heated debate with somebody with a large platform. And that's something that I've been imploring Democrats to do. I think it does accomplish something. Example, the Governor Newsom has done the Sean Hannity show a couple times. You're not going to win over Sean Hannity's base, I can guarantee you. But it shows some balls to be able to go on the other side and debate somebody like a Sean Hannity or like a Tim Pool. I don't regret going on there at all. They treated me with respect. I'm going to do it again because it's something that I think is much more of a positive than a negative. And quite frankly, I wish both sides would do more of that. So, Mark, I disagree with you. I don't think you lose a debate because you didn't win over a bunch of cultist listeners. I don't think you lose a debate because there were some times. And by the way, I didn't think they interrupted me a lot. I interrupted them too. I didn't think it was that bad at all. I thought it was a lot better than Piers Morgan. I'm interrupted every 3 seconds on the Piers Morgan show. I don't think you lose a debate because of that either. I believe I was able to get all my points across. People can take it for what they want. But here's the thing, Mark, for the most part. If you're a diehard,
I have one more thing to say.
I understand. If you're a diehard Tim Pool fan and you're a cultist, you're going to say I got destroyed. If you're middle ground or on the left, you're probably going to say that I destroyed him. I don't really pay attention to that stuff. I was happy with my performance. The people that were close to me, my friends, my family, and people that are big fans of the show really enjoyed it. Fans of his show enjoyed it. And that's what's more important to me than anything else. Not a medal. I'm not getting a medal that says I defeated Tim Pool in a debate. People are going to have their opinions, and that's fine. Go ahead, Mark. Mark, go ahead. I think Mark just lost the debate. Mark, I appreciate the call. I would have let you finish, my friend, but I think we got disconnected there. I think Mark just lost the debate. That's why he hung up. Mark, you didn't win any of my fans over. I'm just kidding, Mark. I appreciate the call. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to David. David is next up on PTL. What's up, David?
Oh, hey, Brian, can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up, David?
Oh, well, the first thing I wanted to just bring up, how you were on Timcast, and
yeah,
the first part I wanted to mention was I did really think that comment you made was funny about how Trump's diet was mostly Arby's. That was probably my favorite moment of the show.
David, can I give you a compliment? Are you okay with compliments?
Of course.
There are not a lot of MAGA people that are willing to call into this show on a regular basis. I wish that wasn't the case. And even though you know that when you call in, we're probably going to disagree on a lot of different things. And sometimes we get into very heated conversations. I do appreciate you. And I appreciate the fact that you are willing to have a conversation, unlike a lot of other people. And that is the point that I am trying to make of me going on Tim Pool's show as you calling into the show. So I just wanted to thank you for that. Now we can get to calling each other names. I'm just kidding, David. Go ahead.
Right. Well, I appreciate that. I mean, yes. I do agree with you that more on either side, I wish more parties would debate each other.
So you agree with me, right?
Enjoy that.
So you agree with me?
Yeah, 100%. Okay, I mean, sure. Okay. I do completely. That's why I appreciated you going on Timcast, because I knew that you were going to go on with an entire panel that didn't agree with you.
Right.
But having said that, when you were talking to Tim about, Trump's felony charges, I hear you. I would say almost every one of your episodes, I hear you, bring up, he's a felon and everything.
Oh, he is, yeah.
34-count felon.
He is.
Sure, okay. But when Tim was asking you about basics of the cases,
sure,
you weren't able to answer it at all.
And no, that's not true. I would disagree with that. So I didn't have all the 34 counts right in front of me, but I did tell him the basis of what that was. Misappropriation of funds. I talked about a little bit of forging of documents, for lack of a better term, lying on certain documents, falsifying documents.
Right, but when he was talking to you about specifics, you really couldn't get into it. And I'm not saying you have to know every part of the case.
Here's why I don't think that's important. Now, if we were having a debate on the merits of the felony counts, I wouldn't bring that up. The only thing that I brought up, and I think you'll agree with me on this, even though I'm sure you disagree with the outcome of what took place, is that a jury found him guilty on 34 felony counts. Can we agree on that?
Well, I don't disagree that I don't think he was actually not guilty. I think he was guilty of those things.
Right. But hold on. Can you answer that, Dave? Dave, can you answer that question for me?
Yeah.
Did a jury, this is the same question I asked Tim Pool, did a jury find Donald Trump guilty on those 34 counts? Yes or no?
Well, to my knowledge, yes.
Okay,
but
you're
what
right.
I can tell you
you're
is
right.
Tim. Well, yeah, but here's the thing. Tim knows way more about that than I do. I haven't paid too much attention.
Yeah, but
to
what
it.
does it matter what he knows? He could know. First of all, he's not going to know more than David. He's not going to know more than the jury. Nobody's going to know more than what the jury knew.
Here's the thing. Sure. Look, I'm not saying that you have to know 100% of everything, and I'm not just saying this to. I know this might sound insulting, but what I'm saying is, again, for you to bring up that case all the time, that's your prerogative. If you want to do that,
I don't bring up the case. I just bring up the fact that he is a felon. That's all I bring up.
But when he was just asking you, just putting a little bit of pressure, all I'm saying is if you're going to bring up the fact that he's a felon all the time, you should at least know some of the details of him being a felon.
Does that change the fact? Does it change the fact that he's a felon?
I'm not saying it does.
Here's my issue about this.
Undermines your argument.
I don't think it does at all. Yeah. So I disagree with you. So here's the only point that I was trying to make. He's a liable sexual abuser, whether you agree with it or not. And he is a 34-count felon, whether you agree with it or not. Now, if you want to get into the weeds with me and talk about the actual, felony counts and why you think it was unfair, okay, fine. That's a different topic. The only thing he was trying to claim, and this is to me what hurts his argument. He was trying to claim that because I can't name all the counts and he knows more about the case than me, that must mean that Donald Trump wasn't convicted. And we all know, David, that's a lie. That's a lie. Well, that's what I'm saying, David.
I get your point. But what I'm saying is, again, it just kind of goes back to, like, when you say, like when you're talking about the specifics of, let's say, the E. Jean Carroll case, a lot of those specifics, in my opinion, and again, it's my opinion, significantly undermine the actual case itself. And I think anyone who looked at that objectively would say it's kind of a ridiculous outcome.
Okay, so David, here's what I would say to that. Did you have all the evidence that the jury had in the E. Jean Carroll case?
No.
Okay. You can disagree. You're entitled to your opinion, but let me give you just a little bit of context.
Sure.
Look at the way Donald Trump has lived his life. Look at the way he's talked about women. Look at all the women that have come forward that have claimed he raped or sexually abused them, including his ex-wife, under deposition in court documents. Now, if you don't want to believe E. Jean Carroll and you think she was lying, you're entitled to that opinion. But I believe her, and I tend to believe most victims. Maybe not Nancy Mace, but I tend to believe most victims. Now, if you don't want to believe it and you don't think it happened, that's a different argument. Again, going back to what I said, going back to what I said on Tim Pool's show, I wasn't arguing the facts of the case. Well, all I was simply saying, just like the 34 felony counts, is that he's a liable sexual abuser, just like O.J. Simpson was never found guilty of murder. We can disagree, but that's the only point. And he couldn't even tell me that that Trump is a liable sexual abuser. He said, no, that's a lie. How can you have a good faith conversation with somebody who says the earth is flat? He said, you understand what I'm saying? Like, how do I have a
I totally, look, I get your point. You're not wrong on principle because, he was found guilty, found liable of those specific things.
Right.
But again, I think we're kind of arguing on two different kind of points. I get your point, but what I'm saying is it just kind of goes back to don't you think there should be more to your own argument than saying, yeah, he was found liable for sexual abuse. Okay, can you talk about this, that, and this related to it? And you were kind of like, well, I don't know the details.
Oh, I didn't
mean,
say.
Shouldn't you just know that?
I didn't say I didn't know the details.
I'm not trying to say that to sound rude.
I know the details.
I know
I know the details in the E. Jean Carroll case. I don't know why you would think I don't. I do. I know exactly.
When he was bringing them up, you kind of fell flat. You weren't able to answer basic questions.
I didn't fall flat. I know exactly what happened, and I said it on his show. If you watched it. It was accused Donald Trump of using his fingers to digitally penetrate her. I have to be careful. I'm on the radio. It happened in a dressing room. It happened over 30 years ago. She did tell some of her friends days after it happened. They testified under oath. And, it comes down to, do you believe her or do you believe him? A jury found that he was liable. I mean, I know the basics of the case, just like I know the basics. Could I have the 34 felony counts right in front of me? No, of course not. And by the way, I guarantee you he couldn't have named all 34 felony counts either. But I wasn't into playing that game. And I don't think it hurts my argument at all. The only argument that I was trying to make, and I talked about Tim's daughter, and I talked about the moral character or lack thereof of Donald Trump. And then we went into legalities and the 34 count felonies and the fact that he's a liable sexual abuser. I don't think you have to know all the specifics in a case to understand whether someone is guilty or not. That's just my personal opinion. Now, you can disagree, but the courts decided. And guess what? There's a reason why we have a jury. There's a reason why we have this system put in place. The jury gets all the information. We don't. They make a decision. The jury made a decision in the Trump felony case. The jury made a decision in the E. Jean Carroll case. That's why we have this system put in place. And I shouldn't have to know all the details in all these cases to know that a jury found him guilty.
You should know all the details.
Yeah,
I'm not giving an absolute saying you should know all the details.
I understand what you're saying, David.
None of us can.
I understand what you're saying, David. All I'm simply saying is there's a reason why we have
this
system put in place.
Can you steelman my argument? What is it do you think I'm saying to you? What is my argument exactly?
Well,
if you could repeat it.
I really don't know. I guess I'm trying to understand that you think I should have known more details in the E. Jean Carroll case when I gave you all the basic details of the case.
Well, what I'm saying is it's also that, and it's also the felonies. I mean, you're going on there to debate. All I'm saying is, I don't think you were all that prepared because, again, this second you asked.
Did you watch the 2-hour debate? Did you watch it?
I literally watched it the moment it came out because I was excited for it. And I remember Tim asked you several times, what was the underlying crime? And then you just said he was found guilty. Tim goes, right, what was the crime?
I wasn't there. Because I wasn't there to debate the legalities of the case. That's not my forte. I was there to talk about healthcare. I was there to talk about the lack of moral character that Donald Trump has. I was there to talk about Charlie Kirk. I was there to talk about immigration. I wasn't there to get into a 20-minute legal argument about the 34 counts and why it was unconstitutional. Listen, here's the bottom line. He appealed it. Okay. And if he wins the appeal, then I guess Tim's right. If he loses the appeal, then I'm right. But right now, Donald Trump has been convicted. And I don't understand why anybody needs to go into the weeds to say that. We all know it was misappropriation of funds, the Stormy Daniels stuff, the $130,000 payment that was made. Was it illegal for him to do that? Was he doing it a week before the elections because he wanted to keep it from the American people? This wasn't just a guy that paid a prostitute or somebody. This was the president or trying to be the president of the United States who tried to conceal this to the American people. It's why Michael Cohen got in trouble and he went to jail. And, if people think it was meritless, guess what? Donald Trump's attorneys had the right to present it in a court of law and they failed to do so.
Well, I get what you're saying. And my final point is basically what you just said a minute or two ago when you said it's, the legalities of it is not your forte. That's fine. There are certain things I really can't debate because I don't really know anything about it. But my point with that is if it's not if healthcare wasn't something I was educated on, I'm really not educated on it. But if it wasn't something I was educated on, I wouldn't constantly bring it up as a premise of an argument because then I'm going to fall flat the moment someone.
That wasn't the premise. That wasn't the premise of my argument.
Well, you kept saying he's a felon. The
premise of my argument was Donald Trump is a horrible human being, probably engaged in illegal activity. The premise of my argument was the first thing I brought up with him is his daughter about going into teenage girls' locker rooms. The premise of my argument was Donald Trump is an awful human being. He's a terrible person. That was the premise of my argument. The fact that he's a 34-count felon was a very small part. Here's what I would ask for you to do, David, because I'm a poker player and I'm reading you here. So be honest with me.
Okay.
From what I'm getting from this phone call, I don't think. Did you really watch the entire debate, or did you just watch clips?
I watched the entire debate.
Okay. All right.
I don't know why you think I did. I mean, I was giving you quotes that Tim was saying to you.
Okay. All right.
You talked about
what about
things.
the Charlie Kirk stuff?
Healthcare, immigration.
What about the Charlie Kirk stuff? Did you think?
Well, you got into it with the other because the one guy you said Charlie was garbage. The other guy started to debate you on that. I don't remember that guy's name. That wasn't a big part of the.
Tim cut that off pretty quick because that guy made a terrible argument with me. And then Tim played a clip and he admitted to me that what Charlie Kirk said was bad and he gave him a D- and all that. Yeah, it was terrible. And I bring that up.
Her husband,
and then we talked about Medicare, and Tim said he didn't care about people in this shutdown not getting paid. I thought that was a horrible thing to say. Showed a lack of empathy.
Well, I know you think it was horrible, and that's fine. But his outline for that was because he thinks the government's too bloated and we need to make cutbacks.
It doesn't matter what his reasoning is. To say that you don't care that there are hardworking Americans out there who are not getting paid is a lack of empathy for people. And I found that to be. And by the way, what about the part when we were talking about healthcare? And I mentioned that Donald Trump hasn't come up with a replacement plan in 9 years. Even when he wasn't president, he still could have been coming up with a plan if he won again. And then Tim said, well, that's why I voted for him, because he doesn't have a plan. I mean, I think that made Tim look really bad.
Well, I mean, he also explained, because you kept pressuring him on that and asking him why. He explained, he said, because he doesn't think any president could fix health care, which I personally agree with.
Then, first of all,
Barack
Obama came up with a plan. It's called Obamacare. Now, you might not agree with it, and you might not like it, but at least he came up with a plan. The Republicans have no solutions. Donald Trump is the guy. He didn't say, I'm not going to come up with a replacement plan. I don't have any solutions. In fact, he said the opposite. He said, the plan is coming. You'll have it in 2 weeks. You'll have it in a month.
Yeah, he's a used car salesman. I'm not saying he doesn't.
That's the point that I was trying to make. Don't complain.
And you made that point. And Tim,
name me a president. Name me a president in our life. He really didn't, but name me a president in our lifetime for years that complaining about a Republican policy and didn't even come up with anything to combat it. Nothing. Democrats combat it with gun control. They combat it with health care. They combat it with minimum wage, with everything. Now, guns, you might not agree with the solutions that the Democrats have, but if it's a big issue like health care, at least they have something that they can debate, a solution, something that they want. And
first of all, Republicans do have answers to these problems. Just Democrats don't agree with it.
Where is it? What's the replacement plan?
Well, for example, for healthcare, I mean, if you're going to think about what Trump was saying, he was saying back in the, when he was running against Hillary, he wanted to leave it up to the states. That was effectively what he was saying.
But he doesn't have any solutions. He doesn't have a plan. David, that's the problem.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not saying he does. But having a bad plan, like I think Democrats have a bad plan, I would make the case that that's even worse than having no plan at all, because you're putting a terrible plan in place.
So first of all, that's a matter of opinion, and
I'm not defending Republicans.
I disagree with you. I disagree with you. I think Obamacare saved millions of American lives, but let's just say you're right for a moment. Let's say Obamacare is terrible. Don't you think that when you have a guy that literally could have done something about it, that's been complaining about it for years, could maybe bring something to the table as some sort of solution?
He did a little bit. Trump did a little bit with it.
What did he do?
He repealed the mandate for insurance. If you didn't have insurance, you would get fined.
That is such a small
scope. Not true?
That is such a small scope of what we are talking about. I could also say on day one, he signed an executive order. Now millions of Americans don't have access to insulin being capped at $35 because of Donald Trump and what he did in his first administration. So we can go back and forth on the few things that he did that are hurting or helping healthcare. The bottom line, and the point that I'm trying to make, David, and the point I tried to make to Tim Pool, is he doesn't have a replacement plan. He's had 9 years. That is not a serious policymaker. That's the point that I was trying to make. And when Tim Pool says, I don't care, it's not a good faith argument. Of course you should care.
Yeah, but do you understand why when he outlined that argument, did you get his point as to say why he didn't care? Because Tim is saying, I'm trying to steelman his argument. Tim was saying he doesn't think any president or politician can make a good healthcare plan because it's way too complicated.
That's nonsense.
That
Obama
other guy
did it.
started talking about regulation.
I understand, David, what you're saying.
But he made a plan that nobody was happy with, and Trump was able to say,
first of all, when you say, quote, he made a plan that nobody was happy with, that is not true. I'm happy with it, and there are millions of Americans that are better off today than they were before Obamacare. That is your opinion, but you don't speak for everybody in America, David. There's a lot of people. All I'm simply saying, David, and by the way, I do appreciate your call. I meant what I said. All I'm simply saying, David, is that if you're going to complain about something your mom or dad taught you growing up, Do something about it. I don't want to hear you complain about something unless you have a solution. Donald Trump is the president of the United States. He is not a serious policymaker. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's been complaining about Obamacare for years. There is no solutions, not even a sliver. There is no replacement plan. And the fact that anybody like Tim would say that I like him for that is absurd. It's ridiculous. Thank you for the call. Let's go to Bernie. Bernie is next up on PTL. Hi, Bernie.
Hi. Is this Brian Shapiro?
The one and the only. Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
It's an honor to talk to you. This is Bernie from Vermont. I just wanted to say that I was in New York the other day with that AOC.
Yeah.
It was a great experience. I've been in your town. I saw the Oakland Raiders playing a few weeks ago. They look very, very bad, but the oligarchs in the stadium cheered anyway. So I just wanted to say that I enjoy your show very much, Ben.
Thank you, Bernie.
I like your show.
It's Brian, by the way, not Ben. It's Brian. Yeah.
You're not the one with the yarmulke on the head? Is that it?
No, definitely.
No?
I do wear a hat, though, but for different reasons, yeah. Not a yarmulke.
Yeah. Sometimes I get confused. I'm meeting tons of people on the road every single day.
I bet you do, Bernie. Have you ever, are you dating Ocasio-Cortez? I always wanted to know that.
I'll tell you something. If she was 40 years older, I might consider taking her out.
I thought you were a married man.
Right now, I think I got a wife. I'm not sure. I haven't visited Vermont for a while. But she's a wonderful woman. She fights the oligarchs.
All right, Bernie. Well, I appreciate your phone call.
Thanks. Thank you, Ben. And I thank you very much, Ben.
Thank you, Ocasio. Appreciate the call. 702. I'm going to go Tim Pool here. I'm going to give him a D-. Would you give him a D- on that Bernie Sanders impersonation? I don't know. Let's go to Chad. 702-221-7283. Chad, what's going on?
Hey, Brian. I just want to say, I don't think you told facts. You got them good stuff with the facts stuff. But I think it's all the tune of, you always say the same things about him being in the world, the rain, 24 fella. Well, I think you need him, especially if you go get him again, because they're preparing for you now. Let's talk about how they're supposed to be America first, but he's giving $40 billion to Argentina. How Tim Pool took money from Russia to put out false mines. How it's supposed to be him blowing up people on land, killing people on land in the boats. Just things that would help.
Well, there's a lot more things. There's certainly a lot more things that I could talk about. I have all of that in my arsenal. Unfortunately, we just didn't have time. I could debate Tim. Yeah, I mean, I didn't have time.
Don't let them lead you to them same talking points every time. I'm telling you.
No, that's not going to happen. You have to understand that if we had more time, I certainly would have brought up all those things. And you're right. Executing people on these boats without giving them due process, without even really knowing who's on those boats is certainly criminal. There's no question about that. I could talk about Pete Hegseth and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and the conspiracy theories. I could have brought up
that would shut him up quick.
Well, of course,
I
understand that. I understand that. I could have brought up the Epstein files, and that's something that I certainly will bring up down the road. There's plenty of other things I could talk about. It was more not that I didn't want to talk about that stuff. It's just we didn't have time. I know, but that's
what I'm saying. He leads you to certain things he knows you talk about all the time. He listens to you, so he knows what you're going to do. He knows what you're going to say. And he leads you that way where you waste your time on the same talking points. Make him like, now let's not talk about that. Let's talk about you going to Russia, taking money from Russia. No, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about Donald Trump building this ballroom, but can't give money for food stamps when they got $5 billion put away.
Listen, there's a lot of wasteful.
That's what I'm saying.
There's a lot. I understand what you're saying, and listen, there's a lot of wasteful spending. And the money could be allocated to be helping a lot of Americans that are struggling. Certainly the ballroom is one of them. It's not my top priority to talk about, but it certainly is despicable. But those are all things that are in my arsenal, and I'm sure I'll get the opportunity to talk about those next time I speak with them. All right, let's see here. Let's go to Peter. I believe Peter is next on PTL. What's up, Peter?
What's up, Brian?
Hey,
did you do anything to prepare for Tim Pool? And if so, how is it different than preparing for Pierce?
I never really prepare for Pierce either. They tell me the guests that are going to come on. If I'm not familiar with the guests, sometimes I will Google search them or go on Twitter. But usually the guests that I debate on Pierce are pretty well known people like Jack Posobiec and Michael Knowles and Clay Travis. I know who these people are, right? I knew enough about Tim Pool to know what to expect. So there was really no reason for me to, do any research. I really didn't even know the topics that we were going to discuss. But so no, in this specific circumstance, I didn't. Like I said, the only time I do any bit of research at all is when I'm going to be debating somebody or I'm on a show with somebody that I'm not familiar with, if that makes sense.
Definitely. And no hat or beanie removals?
So here's my deal with Tim. We got to have to bet. If Tim is willing to go bald November 8th, I will do the same. By the way, I learned something new, though, about those hats because we were talking about it privately. Tim is a big skateboarder. He's in that sort of realm. He loves to skateboard, and I guess that's kind of in the culture. I don't know, wearing those kind of hats. We talked about it a little bit off the air, but he definitely is more bald than me. And if he wants to go bald on the show, I will totally do that. It's up to him.
Something to look forward to.
All right. Thanks,
Brian.
Thanks, Peter. Appreciate you. Let's go to Albert. Albert is next up on PTL. Hey, Albert, what's up?
Hey, Brian, how's it going?
Good.
I was just wanting to call just so I can prove how stupid MAGA supporters are.
That should be pretty easy to prove. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So on Wednesday, I'm sure you know about the famous racial profiling case, Arpaio versus Melendrez.
Yep.
We got another freaking MAGA sheriff here, and there was a court hearing because a bunch of morons decided from the MAGA side they decided to turn this community meeting into a political stunt, just basically kissing ass for Arpaio 2.0. But keep in mind, though, this is how dumb they are. Because we had to pay so much taxpayer money over the racial profiling case, all these morons, they've been voting for Joe Arpaio since, 1992. And now they want to complain about the price tag of racial profiling and that, the federal monitor and the judge is wasting all this money. You morons basically wasted all this freaking money, and now you have the audacity to sit there and claim that you people are the victims? No, you guys are a bunch of jackasses because racism is very expensive.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I certainly don't disagree with you. There's a lot of things that we could be talking about today. You know, it's funny. I haven't really talked about the ballroom very much, but you go back to the days of Roosevelt. You go back to the days of Roosevelt because MAGA Republicans will say, well, look at what this president did and look at what Obama did. First of all,
my God.
I think you know this. Any of these renovations that they did to the White House were renovations that needed to be done. They needed to be done for reconstruction.
Exactly.
This wasn't something that was a necessity. A ballroom isn't a necessity. There were parts of the White House that were old and they needed to be redone with preserving the history of it. That is exactly the opposite of what Donald Trump is doing with this ballroom, and that's why I disagree with it.
You're damn right. And another thing that really pisses me off is that when I was at the courthouse that night on Wednesday, one of my sources told me that a bunch of MAGA Republicans were inside of the courthouse because the judge was basically giving them a Derek Jeter a Mariano Rivera style, strikeout, and just absolutely lambasting the supporters by saying hey, this is how much money you guys have cost the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office because of Arpaio and blah 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 blah. And then there was some racist elderly lady that literally gasped in the room and said about the racial profiling. You ready to hear it?
Yeah.
She said, "Oh my God, that is unacceptable." Well, it is unacceptable, but it's so freaking sad that it took you guys this amount of time to get the damn facts straight. That there was racial profiling, but no, it costs too much money. Well, tough crap. They voted for this imbecile, and all these people are a bunch of jackasses.
I think a lot of them are. Hey, you're not going to get an argument from me. I think a lot of them are. It's good to hear from you, my friend, and I really do appreciate the call. Let's go to Gabe. Gabe is next up on PTL, 702-221-7283. What's up, Gabe?
Nothing much. How are you doing, Brian?
Good. What's on your mind today, Gabe?
So last week, Steve Bannon, aka Yoda with A's, basically said that Steve Bannon said that there is a plan. I'm putting that in quotation marks that to give Trump a third term. So we all know that Donald Trump is not a spring chicken. He's 79 years old, and his health is going downhill both cognitively decline, and overall he eats like crap. Like, so anyway, these, I don't think he's going to be alive in the next a year, 2 years, 2 years from now, or
well, we can't. I certainly am not a doctor. It certainly appears that neither
am I.
Yeah, he had this MRI. He won't tell us why. He's obviously not in great health. And these are the same people that were complaining about Joe Biden and the administration covering it up. Why won't they answer why he had an MRI? Not that their answer would be truthful, but they're not even giving an answer.
Because they're hiding something. It's basically the acronym is CYA, cover your own ass.
I think that's exactly what they're doing. I completely agree with you, my friend. Albert, it's good to hear from you, and I appreciate your call. 702-221-7283. Terry is next up on PTL. Hey, Terry, what's going on? Thanks for calling in.
Appreciate your call. 702-221.
Terry, are you there?
Terry is next up on PTL.
Lower that radio for me, Terry, if
Brian.
you can. Hi, Terry. What's on your mind?
Hi, Brian. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Brian, I just want to let you know I'm coming to your defense today and pushing back on some of your callers. First of all, this is not a high school or a college debate that you went to. Okay, so, this business of coming all prepared and everything, you cannot do that with this group, because no matter how you put the facts out, Brian, you're going to constantly get, pushback that with false stuff. And so, no. And I just want to talk about Dave for a minute. Let's talk about healthcare plans here. Not all states are created equal in terms of the resources that they have to put out healthcare plans. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, there will be some states that don't have the ability to put those plans together, which is why we need a federal plan that covers every single state. So I just wanted to let you know I'm on Team Brian right now. So enjoy the rest of your day.
I appreciate that. That's very kind of you and sweet of you. Thank you. Listen, there's going to be people out there that are going to say, I did a good job. There's going to be people out there that are going to say I didn't. That's par for the course, man. There have been debates that I've been in where I have said to myself, I could have done a better job. The last one was with Riley Gaines on Pierce Morgan. I think I went personal with her a little bit too fast. I think I should have stuck to the facts. The fact that she is a Nimrod who couldn't name any prominent Democrat that has celebrated the death of Charlie Kirk. I probably went a little bit too far there. But at the same time, I may never get another opportunity to debate, Riley Gaines, and I wanted to make my opinions and express them. I was very happy with my performance on Tim Pool's show. I thought I stated my case, and I did what I wanted to do, and I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. And by the way, for anybody that wants a pair of tickets to see me in person debating Tim Pool on a live stage with Myron Gaines and Alex Stein, the next caller right now at 702-221-7283. The next caller right now is going to win yourself a pair of tickets. You have to be in Washington, D.C. on November 8th. It's going to be early afternoon. If you call in right now at 702-221-7283, you just scored yourself a free pair of tickets to see this live event on November 8th. All right, let's get back to the phone calls. Let's go to Dave. Dave is next up on PTL. What's up, Dave?
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for taking my call, Brian.
What's up?
All right, so I'm gonna vouch for what she said too as well. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna vouch for she. Okay, so you can hear me better, right? There you go.
I got you. Yep.
Okay. All right. So look at people here. I even put this in there for you for the chat room, people. It's all there, so that way you can do your homework. There's your copy and paste for the New York, the results for the New York State versus Trump and the decision. All right, do your homework, people. Stop being lazy and get your head out of your and start getting your information. Number two, this is not two wrongs don't make a right. All right, let's just put it out there. You're right, he's right. Two wrongs don't make a right. This is not a race to see who gets the most ratings. It's not about that. What it boils down, people in the chat room and everybody else on hold, it boils down to one thing. How many people that Brian's going to change people's hearts and minds to, that he's going to take with him to the ballot to vote right, and how many is he going to win of the listeners on his show that he's going to take to the ballot. So what it boils down to, people, blood is thicker than water. It's not a race. This is a civil conversation, and it's not a matter who wins, who loses.
Mm-hmm.
This is basically a very casual. I've watched it in 2 hours, and man, it really drained me.
Yeah, how do you think I felt? How do you think I felt after that conversation?
Yeah, but you know something, Brian? I bet you any money that why he became Republican, and I told your producer this.
Money.
And it made sense.
Money.
No, well, not only money. Remember that he was talking about that he was pissed that when the Obamacare and all this other stuff, and it was universal health care, and he had people in the hospital that he was talking about that, and then nobody came to his rescue and so forth. And I remember him saying that he said, well, wait a minute. He's probably pissed off because nobody helped him in the hospital when he needed help, when it comes to universal health care, for Obamacare or whatnot. Sure. Remember that?
I do.
And so I bet you, so you know what, so I think what he did is that he got so, he had a little bit of animosity that he basically said, well, the Obamacare didn't work for me. Then I'm going to go ahead and flip a coin and go the other route and see if the Republicans can help me, because they didn't help me when I wanted help, when I needed help in the hospital, and all that kind of stuff and so forth. So I bet you the money that he's pissed off because he didn't get the help that he wanted to when the Obamacare took place. So I think that's the reason why he became Republican.
I think you might be onto something there, but I think in the bigger picture, my friend, and thank you for your comments, by the way, the reason why Leo Terrell turned Republican, the reason why Candace Owens turned Republican, the reason why these people do this, I think, in my personal opinion, in general terms, is for money. So they can get more clicks and become more famous, I guess. I don't know. Who are we going to next? Let's go to Patrick. Patrick is next up on PTL. What's up, Patrick?
Hey, doing, B?
Hey, what's up?
Great debate the other day, man, for sure. It's always hard, like the previous caller was saying, 2 hours, man. But to melt my brain listening to that crap.
Yeah, it wasn't easy. I understand.
Well, it's just, the obstructionist party. It doesn't matter what there's no policy there. It doesn't matter what the argument is. It's just obstruct the other side. Just own the libs.
Yeah.
There's no point. There's no rhyme or reason. It's just, it's got to be tough being in your shoes. That's all I'll say. Congratulations. You nailed it.
That's nice of you, my friend. I appreciate that, Patrick. It's not that tough. Sometimes mentally it's a little tough, but I actually enjoyed doing his show, and I will certainly do it again. Let's go to Casey. Casey's next on PTL. What's up, Casey?
Hey, Brian. It's good to talk with you, and just want you to know I'm proud of you for going into the Lion's Den. But I got to be honest with you, my brother, you had so many opportunities. You were probably nervous, bro, but you had so many opportunities that you missed, man. And I'm going to tell you a couple. The whole thing when he kept, the first thing when he said about he didn't care a food stamps or whatever, he let them eat cake kind of thing, but he's okay with corporate welfare. You know what I'm saying? Like this whole bootlegging, it's like, they say they care about the kids and fentanyl, this other stuff, but don't let them eat.
Well,
I
hear what you're saying. I just kind of stopped him in his shoes, and I'm like, you don't care about people not getting the help that they need that are struggling. I was just mesmerized by that. Casey, I'm going to be honest with you. I wasn't nervous at all doing the Tim Pool show. You know why? Because it was in person. I get a little nervous when I do the Pierce Morgan show because I don't have any control. I'm in a studio by myself with a camera guy, and I have no control. I feel like I felt the same way I feel now, right? Like when I'm in my element in person doing a show, I don't get nervous at all. I don't like Pierce Morgan. I don't like doing TV, and I don't like not sitting next to somebody face to face. That's when I get a little nervous.
But I look at a guy like Tim Pool. He's a typical libertarian that wants to destroy government, and that's why he likes Trump. He doesn't. They're all this anti-government, and it's not more than owning the libs and stuff like that. But he's not the caliber of a lot of like yourself and in Parker and stuff like that. He regurgitates, and he's a parrot of the echo chamber, of the right-wing echo chamber.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I think a lot of his listeners are not willing to even listen to another side, which I find bizarre. And, listen, it is what it is. But at the same time, I think it's important for people that disagree to have good political discourse. And I'll debate anybody. I've always said that, and I always will.
But I hear you, my brother. But I just feel that it's a waste of time dealing with these people. We're not accomplishing anything. It just all it is giving them their clicks to make their millions and keep and throwing red meat to their base.
That's certainly a part of it. But because he has such a large listenership, maybe there are some people out there that said, that's a good point. I don't know if that's the case. But I think it is important to go into the lion's den, for lack of a better term, and to speak your mind and to say what you want to say. And I feel like I was able to do that.
I think there should have been 2-on-2. There was two of those guys.
Well, can I give you some insight? Can I give you some insight on that?
Yep.
So the libertarian that they flew in, the guy with the beard who I had never heard of before, I guess he's a huge Trump guy. And my understanding, based on my discussions with the producer, is they wanted a libertarian that was anti-Trump like me. And one of the first things that Tim Pool said to start the show was, we didn't know it was going to be 3-on-1. We wanted it 2-on-2. And I actually believe them. I think, and by the way, that doesn't bother me at all. I told them it could be 20-on-1 and I don't give a crap. But they were trying to make it 2-on-2, and I think the guy that they got was
you and Destiny or Parker, any of them.
Yeah,
you guys,
Parker won't do it.
It wouldn't even been fair. I mean, it would have been.
No, I know. I agree with you. Parker wouldn't do it. He refused to. He doesn't do it. He won't do it.
The other thing that he was lying about too is the thing about illegals getting health care, and it's that's the right wing, and it was one of the opportunities that I felt that you should have checkmated him.
Well, there were so many things in that conversation with healthcare that I was talking about, but you're right. If you're seeking asylum and you're doing the right things and you're going to court, you're not considered an undocumented immigrant. Those people will still be allowed to be on healthcare unless this big, beautiful bill passed. But I do appreciate you. It wouldn't be a show without Darlene. Darlene, what's going on?
Brian, we missed you so much. But listen, I'm going to tell everybody, Brian slayed him. And I'm telling you because the people that are saying that you didn't do a good job or whatever, they don't have the guts to do it. They don't even have the guts usually to even call you. So
that's true.
Heck with that. We're not worried about that.
That's true.
Yeah, all I know is you did a great job.
Well,
and we missed you very much.
Well, that's very sweet of you, Darlene. I missed you as well. And it's good to hear from you. And give us a buzz tomorrow. And I'm glad you're feeling better. Thank you for the call, Darlene. I appreciate you, love. Let's go to Cheryl. Cheryl's next up on PTL. Hi, Cheryl. What's going on? Hi, Cheryl. Lower that radio.
Hi. Okay, sorry.
Lower that radio for me. Yep.
Give me 1 second.
Yep. Technology. Okay. What's going on?
Hi. I wanted to make 2 points.
Okay.
One about the ballroom.
Okay, I got 1 minute.
My fear is that he named it Donald J. Trump. He's using his own money, and when he does not get 2028 election, he's going to go hunker inside that ballroom like a little baby and not leave.
He said today he might run for a third term. He said that. He alluded to that on Air Force One today. It's insane.
Right. And that's why he's going to pay for it, and it's not going to be the people's.
Yeah.
And the number 2 thing I wanted to say is if the states take up insurance, it's going to make it really hard for people to travel around from state to state if they need to use their insurance in another state. So that's a really poor argument, David.
I completely agree with you. I do think David made some poor arguments, but as I said, I always appreciate anybody who's willing to call into the show that disagrees with me. Listen, I'm willing to do the same. I appreciate the call, my dear. Thank you so much, Cheryl. So for those of you that are new to this show, I ask that you please check out my website, which is pushingthelimits.live. Folks, we have an incredible guest that is going to be joining us in studio tomorrow. The 45th and 47th President of the United States is going to be making an in-person appearance on Pushing the Limits. This is unprecedented, ladies and gentlemen. Donald Trump has also agreed to take your phone calls tomorrow. So it's going to be quite an experience. We have some other very special guests, including this week. I'm going to be interviewing a guy by the name of Hunter, who was the last person to talk to Charlie Kirk. And he's been traumatized. I mean, I think anybody would. He's going to be joining us on the show as well, among some other very, very special guests. So tomorrow, Donald Trump joining us in studio. He's going to take some phone calls. Folks, you are not going to want to miss this. It's going to be unbelievable. Check out the website, pushingthelimits.live. We accept donations on the website to help keep the lights on here. If you want to support independent media and you enjoy what I do, then please help support what we do here by going to the website, pushingthelimits.live. Thank you, everybody. It's great to be back, and I look forward to being back on the air tomorrow, same time, same place. I love you guys, everybody at PTL Nation. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.